This here is a antique clock. It was my grandfather's. He bought it for my grandmother a long time ago. It's made of solid oak, and it's just the kind of thing an Amish couple would really appreciate the workmanship. It was handed down to my father, and since his death has now been handed down to me. It's an old wind-up clock. The original brass key is still inside of it. Seth Thomas clock. The stain here on the winding hole there, where the key inserts, my father would stop in to visit his parents every Saturday morning when he got off of work at the shop. He worked in a tire factory. He was always dirty, and those stains right there are from my father's own hand. This clock dates back to 1913. 1913. You could say it's an old timer. You know what? Truth is, last night I knew I was going to talk about this clock today, and for some reason I had a dream about this clock. I dreamed I was eating it, and it was time consuming. And then in the middle of the dream, I went back for seconds. This clock is broken, not on the inside. The inside, it chimes, if it was wound up, it chimes on every hour and half hour. This little hook piece here is missing over on the other side, and we have no idea what happened to it. Through the years, my grandparents had that. At some point, that happened. We don't know what, but it is now in my possession. It's broken on the outside. Everything works on the inside, and it still has tremendous eBay value. Now, my family who's watching needs to relax. I'm not going to sell it, but it is an important piece in my life. I shared that with you because today Jesus is going to heal a broken man, a man who was broken for 38 years. How do you explain that? People who have been through long-term illnesses. Some of you have been praying to God for years, begging for healing, asking him to do something special in your life, and I cannot explain why he hasn't arrived yet. I know that sometimes God just wants us the way we are, and that is hard to deal with. Other times, God is waiting for a long period before he does something amazing in our life. It all has to do with the reshaping. That brokenness of this man today is what my spirit focused in on last Sunday night. I start my sermons on Sunday night. After I preach Sunday morning, it's just in my spirit to do so. And last Sunday night, as I was going through this passage, I know that we could talk about healing. I know we could talk about biblical proof. But my whole spirit was just drawn to brokenness, and I can't get it out of my mind. And so it's where I think we need to go today. Today's miracle will be another sign that you should be believing in Jesus. It's just yet another sign. We're in that section of John where it's sign after sign after sign. John chapter 20, at the end of this gospel, will say this: Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written. Now here's why he says they're written. These are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. I love that phrase. That the more my belief grows in Jesus Christ, the more life I experience. Even if life is hard, even if times are troubling, even if you have to go through a struggle, there's still this life in you that you cannot explain, you can't get rid of, and that's what's going on here. We're looking through the Gospel of John to get re-amazed with Jesus, so that's where we're going to go today. You're about to see the glory of Jesus Christ in the next few moments, and it's meant to change us. You ready? We're in John chapter 5, starting with verse 1. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. And there in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. All right. You should picture a rectangular pool with 4 porches around it, and then one porch right down the middle. The porches had pillars and stuff. They were called colonnades. And so this pool area had 5 of those porch areas. The pool was split into 2. All right? Bethesda means house of mercy. And when you picture a pool and you picture pillars and these beautiful porches and you hear that it's the house of mercy, it sounds beautiful. It sounds wonderful. Let's go there. And yet this place had become a house of misery. All these people who were lame and hurting and paralyzed found their way into that pool because a legend told them that every time the water bubbled, that was an angel dipping his wing into the water, and the first person into the water would be healed. That was the legend. That's explained to us in verse 4, although verse 4 is not in any ancient manuscripts. Some scribe somewhere decided you needed that information, but it's not part of John's original writing. All of this happens so that you can begin to see and believe in Jesus Christ. Verse 3. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, and one who had been there, a lame man, for 38 years. I cannot explain long-term illness. I just don't know why. Why did the woman with the blood flow issue have it for 12 years? Why did the woman who had a bent back in Jesus' day struggle with that for 18 years? Why was there a man born blind from his childhood all the way into his manhood? Why is there a man in the book of Acts with crippled feet from his childhood all the way into his adulthood? Miracle, healing comes to every one of them on God's timing and not our timing. And you may be very, very close to the healing that you've been hoping for, even if it's been a long, long time. Verse 6, when Jesus saw the man lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Wow. Really, Jesus? Do you want to get well? Doesn't that sound a little cruel to say that to someone? In all my years of doing hospital visits, I've never walked in and said, "You want to get better?" Just never occurred to me to do that. Why would Jesus ask that? I think Jesus is trying to make sure that the man understands his helplessness and his hopelessness. He needs to open up and realize that I am completely helpless and hopeless. There's a reason for this. Verse 7. "Sir," the lame man replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Verse 8, "Then Jesus said to him, 'Get up, pick up your mat and walk.' At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked." Isn't that curious? Get up, he says, and start walking, and then the healing. First the command and then the healing. What Jesus asks you and I to do, he gives us the strength to do. This has always been in the Bible. When God gives us a command, he gives us the strength. Moses, a long, long time ago, God came to Moses and said, "I need you to go to Pharaoh. You need to go speak on my behalf." And Moses replied, I can't. You know I stutter. And God says, "No, I know you do, but I'm going to go with you. Your words are going to have amazing power. I'm giving you your brother Aaron to go along to. You're going to be fine. What I ask you to do, I will give you the ability to do." This morning, while we're all sitting here, there's someone God is asking us to love, and you're thinking impossible. And God says, "No, I'll give you the ability to do it." Some of us in this room have heard God say, "I need you to forgive that person," and you're thinking, impossible. Do you know what they've done to me? Do you know what they've done to my family member? Do you know what they've done? And God says, "I know. But I'm still asking you to forgive them." And in that middle of that struggle, he gives us The strength to do what he asks us to do. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But somewhere deep inside of us, there is the strength to do it. So get up, he says, and take up your mat. Walk means let's move forward. That's exactly what that means. The day on which this took place was the Sabbath. Oh, no. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, it's the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. But the man replied, the man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk. And so they asked him, who? Who told you to pick up your mat and walk? Who was you to break this Sabbath rule? See, instead of being at awe, oh my goodness, wow, you're walking, you're healed, it's a miracle. Instead of being excited for him, their legalism stepped in, their judgment stepped in, and in a moment of seeing something incredible happen, they just judged. And it happens even in church sometimes. The most broken person will step out, give their life to Christ, and someone out there will be sitting there going, I bet it's for the show. I bet he can't live that way. I bet he won't do it. He won't make it. And there's this judgment that we heap on instead of the excitement of the miracle inside of all of this. These Jewish leaders had taken a command that was given in the Old Testament, and they had taken it way too far with rules. The Old Testament law was don't work on the Sabbath. That was your customary work. That meant your job. Just for a day, take a break from your job. By the way, all of you out there, the way we're created by God is our whole physical system works best if on every seventh day you take a day of rest. God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh he rested. Not because he needed it, but because he wanted to be an example to you and I. You work best when you just take a day off. Your family will be healthier. Your relationships will be healthier. You'll be healthier to just shut it down for a day. To give God your attention and to not worry about work. That was the intent of the law, but they had made it rules. Rule. You couldn't even carry anything on the Sabbath day. Don't you dare carry anything. And here's a man who was healed, and they missed it because of their legalism. I'm going to take this one step further. When you and I are determined to love broken people, it will be misunderstood. When Jesus loved broken people, it was misunderstood. Jesus loved prostitutes and tax collectors. In our day today, Jesus loves the drug addict, the alcoholic, the murderer, those who are sexually confused. He loves them. Do not misunderstand that he condones those lifestyles. That's not what I'm saying. It's not an issue of condoning those lifestyles. It's an issue of he loves those people. And he recognizes that this brokenness has to be healed. Love first, and then look for opportunities to speak the truth. It's exactly what Jesus will do. Verse 13, the man who was healed, he had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. He didn't know Jesus was the Messiah. He didn't even know Jesus was this great healer. He didn't know any of Jesus' story. Jesus didn't leave any business cards. Jesus didn't leave his cell phone number. Jesus didn't lean over and say, hey, by the way, I'm the Son of God. Nice to meet you. He didn't do any of that. He just performed a healing and disappeared. This man, in his moment of helplessness and hopelessness, was standing right there in front of him, was standing one who specialized in helpless and hopeless. And he didn't even know it at that time. And so when they asked him, who told you to carry? He didn't have an answer. Verse 14, later Jesus found him at the temple, and he said to him, see, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you. And this man went away. He told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who made him well. Wow. No real statement of faith here, no converted heart, just a healed man, and he runs off and he narcs on Jesus. Okay, that happens. But inside here is this little piece about don't sin. I don't want you to think that sin causes illnesses. That's not what Jesus is making a connection here for. Jesus is saying once you've been brought out of brokenness, don't misuse that. Don't miss the opportunity to talk to people about that. Make sure you're pointing to God in all of that. That's what this is about. I love that Jesus is not only concerned with the man's body, but he's concerned with the man's soul also. And so you and I are surrounded by broken people. So this week, just when I was writing and I was sitting there and I started thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice if we had a list of those who are really broken in our community? And I thought maybe I should ask our people, give me the names of those who are really broken so we know really where to focus our attention on. And I was thinking about a list of broken people, and in that moment, I think it was a spirit moment, I looked over on my desk, and in that very moment, right there on my desk was a phone book. A Lincoln phone book. And it hit me. I do have a list. My name is in that book. Your name is in that book. There's probably nobody we encounter who's not broken in one way or another, who hasn't come out of a brokenness or is in the middle of a broken moment or is entering into some kind of brokenness. They're all around us. You're surrounded right now by broken people. The person in front of you is broken. The person behind you is broken. The person beside you is broken. And some of you, broken bodies. Broken relationships, a broken view of life, a broken view of the church, a broken spirit. Proverbs 18 talks about a broken spirit. The spirit of a man can endure his sickness, but who can survive a broken spirit? And some of us in this room, we know what a broken spirit feels like. Broken heart. Some people I love dearly are struggling with a broken heart right now. Some of us in this room can identify with Psalm 42. My tears have been my food day and night. Boy, can't you just hear the brokenness in that? There's good news, though. Psalm 147 says, God heals the brokenhearted. He bandages their wounds. Luke chapter 4 says, Jesus said, He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. Yesterday, one of our elders and his wife had a funeral, and Gail's son has passed away. And the brokenness that can leave inside of a mother's heart. And then the very next day, she comes to worship Jesus. Come on, who does that? Don't we just take a Sunday off because we're so broken? No, she came to the one place she needed to come. A long time ago, God started opening my eyes to having a heart for broken people. I'm not perfect at it, far from it, but to see value in broken people. See, I'm having trouble with that crowd thing. Have you noticed that when Jesus saw a crowd, he had compassion on them? Have you noticed that when we see a crowd, we get impatient? We're like, oh no, not a crowd. I rushed in here, I need to get some things done. I walk in and there's a crowd, really? And we get real impatient, we almost get angry about it. Jesus in that moment would have been totally different. He would have walked in and seeing a crowd, he would have just had an amazing compassion for them. How do I grow to that? I want that. But sometimes my humanness and my brokenness is revealed. It happened a long time ago. We were down in Florida as a family for vacation. Stephanie was only 3 years old at the time, 3 years, I believe. She went to go out and pick up shells one morning on the beach, and so it was a daddy and daughter moment. She carrying her little pail hand in hand with me, and down the beach we went. And I should have known, I should have known right away that God was about to reshape me. I didn't pick up on it early enough, because Stephanie started picking up broken shells. She just Not whole shells, broken. And she would ooh and ah, and Daddy, look how pretty this one is. And all I could see was the brokenness. I was like, honey, look over here. Here's a perfect shell. It's a beautiful. I was picking up great big, perfectly shaped shells. She wanted nothing to do with them. She's just picking up broken shells. That was all that was going in her bucket. I even slipped one in one time, a full shell, put it in her bucket, and then when she saw me do it, she pulled it out, looked at it, tossed it aside. I was, And then it just hit me. Ron, this is a God moment. You're missing it. I just knew it. It shouldn't surprise me you show up on a beach today. Because Ron's heart needed to be reshaped. And so now I struggle. God has made me too tender. And I get choked up even thinking about it. Lincoln Christian Church, we've been at this for 170 years almost. And now that you're the generation that's here, this is your opportunity to pick that up, and it is your opportunity to carry that forward. What am I talking about? A heart for the broken. For nearly 170 years in Lincoln, we have had a huge heart for broken people, and now it's our turn. This is our generation's time. And right now as I'm talking, God is growing in you a heart for brokenness, a heart of compassion. It's happening as I'm talking. You know it's happening. There are 10,000 reasons out there in this community. They need Jesus Christ. The good news for them today is Lincoln Christian Church is coming. We're coming for you. Because by believing in Jesus is where real life comes. And what we have experienced, we want you to experience. God loves the broken, and he loves you, and he loves the people he's going to use you to reach out to.